There are many ways to become smart. Studying, deliberate practice, continuous improvement. But one of the easiest ways is learning by osmosis. Just surround yourself with smart people and absorb everything that is going on, and without effort, you become smart like them.
Is that how you became so smart?
Well, let me tell you a story.
Okay.
So when I got into college, I was staying in a hostel, and as a freshie, I saw the seniors around me. They were all these amazing people. They had great accomplishments. They were good at games. They were good at all kinds of things. They had so much knowledge, right? I was just in awe of them. What I would do was, after dinner and evenings and in my free time, everybody would just sit in the mess and they would have these conversations about all kinds of things. And I would just sit there and listen to them. I wasn't smart enough to participate in any of those conversations. I would just be listening. Okay. And this went on for months, years, and without realizing it, one day, like probably in my third year, it dawned on me that I have become one of them. And now the kids are learning from me.
Oh.
So apparently at some point, I picked up their habits, I picked up their systems, I picked up their knowledge, and I became one of them without even trying.
Also studied and also attended classes and did assignments regularly, right? Because we don't want students out there to say, "Arey, we'll sit in the canteen with the seniors and we'll learn by osmosis."
Later on, we will talk about what things you can learn by osmosis and what things you cannot learn by osmosis.
But first, we need to also explain scientifically what is osmosis.
So scientifically, right? Think of it. If you take a raisin and you put it in water, it will slowly absorb the water and become like a grape. If you put it in salt water, it is going to absorb salt water.
Correct.
Right? And that is osmosis. There is a more technical definition of osmosis, but that's unnecessarily complicated, so we will not go there. But the English word osmosis just means learning by gradual, unconscious assimilation of ideas or knowledge just by being exposed to those ideas, right?
In this context, osmosis basically means he wasn't looking to absorb knowledge, but basically ended up absorbing knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, the raisin in water is going to absorb water even if it doesn't want to.
Correct. Right?
That's what happens. So, in fact, when you are understanding what's going on isn't a prerequisite. You end up learning even if you haven't really understood what's going on. Your subconscious brain is picking up things, system one.
Which is what I find fascinating just in terms of psychology and whatnot, because when you're in class, you're also sitting and listening, but that somehow doesn't translate to learning by osmosis. But when you're in canteen listening to seniors, you just learn by osmosis.
In fact, two important things I want to point out, right? One is that in a college, most of what you learn, the most important things you learn in college aren't the things being taught in the classroom, okay? It's all the other things, the behaviors that you are learning by osmosis. But yes, we do need to figure out what things you can learn by osmosis and what things you cannot, right? So the classroom learning you cannot learn by osmosis, right? Maths can't be learned by osmosis. It has to be
practiced,
right? Similar with physics and those things, right? But a lot of behaviors and habits we do learn by osmosis, right? We are basically copycat monkeys, okay? If you look around at teenagers, right? They all teenagers dress similar to each other. They behave similarly. Their body language, their gestures are similar.
That is how trends develop. Clothing trends and your TikTok trends and all of these are all copycat. A trend is basically copying something else someone has done.
So in fact, philosopher René Girard has a theory called mimetic desire, right? What he says is that fundamentally most of us do not really know what we want. Okay, we don't have any fundamental desires. All our desires are copied from other people, right? If everybody around us wants something, then we want something, right?
Okay, so desires, not needs, because we still have basic needs.
No. We're not talking about basic needs. We're talking about the desires above our basic needs. Everybody needs food. But what kind of food you like, you pick up by looking at people around you, right? If you're surrounded by a certain class of people, you will love eating gulab jamuns and stuff in like so much ghee. And if you are surrounded by a different set of people, you'll be eating salads and you can't even look at ghee without getting unhappy, right? So
That suddenly explains a lot of food specialities in different parts of the country.
correct.
Wow. By the way, René Girard you said, and you said mimetics.
Yeah.
Is the word mimetics derived from the concept of a mime?
Miming means copying. So mimetic desire is that the desires you acquire by copying the people around you, right?
All right.
Behaviors and habits. And that is one of the advantages of even in your job, working in an office. You do pick up a lot of behaviors. You do learn a lot about how the organization works, the unsaid rules through osmosis.
Yeah. A lot of office culture is picked up simply by being there and observing what your other colleagues are doing.
And work from home is going to cause problems for that unless the leaders of the company take extra steps to ensure that this learning by osmosis happens, right?
So does this mean I can use osmosis to pick up good habits?
Absolutely. In fact, you must do it that way.
Okay.
James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, has this to say. Surround yourself with people who have the habits you want to have yourself. You will rise together. A different way of saying the same thing is that put yourself in an environment or surround yourself with people where your desired behavior is normal behavior for everyone.
Right. Examples?
So imagine you want to lose weight.
Okay.
So you want to have a healthy diet and you want to exercise. Surround yourself by people who are eating healthy all the time and who always refuse to have sugar with their tea and who never have Coke and so on, right?
Okay.
Even if you keep doing that yourself, after a while, you will realize that you no longer want these things. It becomes much easier to resist. Similarly, if you surround yourself with people who exercise every day and go running and so on, after a while you will start.
That's true. That is true. That is true. I agree.
Why? Because your brain, the dumb monkey brain, the copycat brain, it gets a mimetic desire that look at all these cool people, they go running. Even I want to be cool, so I should go running. You trick your brain into doing that, right? Basically, continuously, your brain is getting the signal that this is the normal thing to do, this is the cool thing to do, and so I should be doing it.
It does make sense because back in school, if you hung around with the smarter kids, you would become smarter. If you hung around with kids who played sports, you would become more of a sports person.
In fact, that is why in another episode, we have given the advice of how to choose an engineering college. And we said choose the highest ranked one you can go to because there you are going to be surrounded by smarter, more ambitious students and you're learning by osmosis, which is a major part of your education in college, is going to be so much better.
So does that mean I can learn anything by osmosis?
No, like I said, there are certain things you can't learn by osmosis.
Okay.
Basically, osmosis is a system one thing. Our brain, the emotional, behavioral brain.
The reptilian brain.
Reptilian brain. The front part of our brain, which does logic and maths and things like that, right?
Of course.
Those things cannot be learned by osmosis. Those have to be learned by just repeated practice, right?
Correct.
So that's why teachers do not like this term learning by osmosis because there have been people who have tried to incorporate learning by osmosis into regular school subjects and that has failed quite badly.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
The other important thing to keep in mind is, you must have heard this saying. Confucius say, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand.
Correct. Our teachers drilled that into us every time they taught maths.
Actually, Confucius didn't say that. It's probably Zunji. But the point is that it is largely true, right? Osmosis is just you hear and see. To do these other more complex things, you have to actually be doing.
Right.
In fact, the best is you want to be teaching someone else. That's the best way to learn something, and that is why this channel exists. This is my way of learning things. Okay? So I'll give you examples, right? Watching YouTube is easy.
Okay.
Writing something or recording your own episode is hard. That gives you much more learning, right?
Yeah.
So
We have a lot of people who keep commenting that they take notes after every episode of ours. So thank you for taking notes and well done.
absolutely, that's a very good way of learning, right? Just consuming is much less learning.
One of these days we'll do like a side bonus episode of Naveen's Anki flashcard deck. It is impressive.
But the important thing to keep in mind is that even for things where you have to work hard to learn, osmosis can help, right? Because if you surround yourself by people who are doing that same kind of hard work, suddenly it no longer seems like hard work,
Correct.
right? So if you're surrounded by the right people, hard work becomes easy work.
True. So now I'm actually trying to think of skills that I should definitely look to learn by osmosis every chance I get.
Yeah, so keep in mind that learning by osmosis is one of the evolutionarily older things, right? So whatever is needed for us in the African savanna and a little later, those are the things you want to learn by osmosis. So that's definitely not maths and that's definitely not science.
Correct. So more instinctive kind of things.
Languages, right? Being consistently exposed to native speakers of a language is a far better way to learn than doing your grammar and sentences and vocabulary lessons and Duolingo, right?
To be fair, the Duolingo owl is very insistent and very persistent, but not being paid by them, welcome to take their money.
Yeah. The other thing is understanding of, say, cultures, right? Immersing yourself in a different culture can lead to a much deeper understanding and appreciation of their customs, their systems, the way they behave, why they behave in a certain way, right? So, for example, you would learn far more about American culture than just watching Friends over and over and over again, rather than reading essays about American culture.
That is true.
Creative inspiration, right? Artistic, musical, etc. All those things also come from osmosis, right? If you surround yourself by creative people, you will have more creative ideas. You surround yourself by musical people, you will have more musical tendencies.
Right. So language, culture, creativity.
There's a whole bunch: leadership, social skills, emotional intelligence, and all of them are similar thought process.
Correct. So anything that basically requires your system 1 brain to be active, or anything that involves your system 1 brain, is something that you can learn by osmosis.
Yeah.
So basically this is kind of the proof of why it is said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with.
Exactly, right? Because what happens is that the 5 people you spend your time with, you absorb their behaviors by osmosis and you start becoming more and more like them, right? The way to change yourself is to change those 5 people, right? It's not easy because the way you are currently, that is going to decide whom you like to spend time with, right? You want to spend time with people that are similar to you. And you by default choose people that it is easy for you to hang out with.
Correct.
But this is probably not necessarily the right approach, right? You think about what you want to achieve in life, what are the things you want to do, and then try to surround yourself with people who are already doing those things, right?
That is why you should always look to hang around with smarter people. My final question is, what if the smarter people don't want to hang around with me?
So this is a very common worry that people have. In reality, it just doesn't work like this. Okay. The most important thing to keep in mind is that smartness isn't like just one number like IQ. Okay. Smartness is, or achievements in general, is multiple dimensions, right? They might be smart in one thing and you are better
At
another thing, right? So they do want to hang out with interesting people. That is one. Second is that for even accomplished people, say somebody who's 10, 15 years your senior and they have achieved things in life. Most such people, I know a lot of such people, and they would love to hang out with a motivated youngster, right? The number of motivated youngsters who are really interested in learning is so low that it's a pleasure to hang out with them and to give advice to them.
Very true. Which is why I am taking the most advantage out of this and I'm enjoying every single moment of it. I hope you guys are too. If you want to hang around with Naveen, please hit him up, please ping him. Our Twitter handles are somewhere here on the screen in the show notes. Check it out. We'll keep coming back with more of these episodes. Shrikant, Naveen, Future IQ.
If you liked this episode, definitely check out our episode on System 1 versus System 2. It really helps with understanding a lot of aspects of our behavior.